How can one be warm alone? It says when Isaac's mom died, they immediately sought for Isaac to have a wife. Because they knew he was suffering because his mom died. He had a close relationship with his mom. People know his mom, Sarah, phenomenal woman of God. And it says the women should esteem to be the daughters of Sarah because of the way Sarah walked. She walked phenomenally. And they say in shamefacedness. And I know I've seen a girl, I was like, wow, I could discern the way you carry yourself is completely different. I haven't seen it before. You're like a Ruth or a Sarah. But to see that is not too often or frequent, because we don't have always the older women teaching the younger women, and we don't always have people teaching people to be spiritual, to be spiritual. That it used to be the older women in the scriptures, it said, would teach the younger woman how to be a wife. And I've seen rampant in society, women have no inclination or knowledge of what it means to be a wife. It says, he that findeth a wife not findeth a woman. So he that findeth a wife. And I can go all day without even looking at the scriptures, because these are things, like I said, I've written. When you write a book and you study it, it's like your knowledge at that level is at a completely different level. And the thing about it, the reason why I had to understand it for myself is because when it says marriage is valuable and all, a lot of people want to get married, but they don't even realize what a marriage is. So how can you operate appropriately in a marriage if you don't even realize what a marriage is? So you have to seek understanding. Lots of times you might study 18 years, no, even more than that, for a career. You would study, 18, high school, pre-college. You would study that pre-college, or you would go to vocational school for a job. So that's either 18 years or pre-college route, and then 4 years, and then go into a career. Or sometimes even at the master's level, or at the PhD, at the doctorate level. You've really mastered your career that you're going to go into. So you go into. So what I'm saying is, at the minimum, 18 years. And then usually most people might do 22 years. And then there's 26 or even 30 years of study. 30 years of study for a career that might not even last a lifetime. But a marriage lasts a lifetime. How long have you studied for that? How long have you studied for a marriage? It's supposed to last a lifetime. And you're more versed in your job than in your marriage. And the thing is, when you understand a marriage and when you understand how valuable it is, you can actually appreciate a marriage. Because right now we have, 50% divorce rates and climbing in the world, and even in the church. And it says, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. But a lot of these marriages, whether they even be two Christians, is not what God put together. That's why I can look at a woman and say, look, you're telling me to open my eyes because we're both Christians. Or you're saying you don't have no time for games because we're both Christians. But I know just because we're both Christians, that I understand the church about not being unequally yoked with an unbeliever. But you're not supposed to be unequally yoked with a person who's at a different faith level, understanding of a different thing. When it talks about help me, it means a helper suitable for you. And God was the orchestrator of that. So it's more than just two believers coming together. It's about a divine connection. And that's why my first book is about the appointed spouse. All right, again, if two lie together, they can have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. So it says him. That lets you know that man is called to be out there in the forefront. Because if one prevail against him, then two shall withstand he who was prevailed against him. And the threefold cord is not quickly broken. And what that means is, if you get past the husband and you're able to get past the wife, then you have to deal with the Christ. And that's what Adam actually banked on. And actually, I might have mentioned it before, but Jesus actually spoke about how Adam was stay committed to Eve. But I think the thing with Adam is, sometimes you can do things in a rush and a hurry and realize, okay, the wages of sin is death. I don't want this woman to die. I'm going to sacrifice for her because I know she might have just shown up. But all this time I've spent with the Lord loves me. And I'm willing to put my life on the line that he's going to save and rescue us. But he had to realize that, the Lord does love him. And if he had waited on God, see, If the Lord was already visiting him in the mornings, all he had to do was wait till the next visitation. But he might have been scared, thinking the next visitation was going to bring death. But here in the scriptures it says, if a 3/4 colt is not quickly broken. A 3/4 colt is not quickly broken. All right, better. All right. So that's the scriptures. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. So, a good reward for their labor. So the husband and spouse are supposed to labor together. And where else do we see that? Let's turn to Genesis, because this is just a further revelation. Because we get deeper revelations of things that have been revealed. So we look at Genesis 1:27. Genesis 1:26, we're going to start there. It says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So, first, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and have dominion. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him. Male and female created them. So this man was male and female. He created them. Male and female. All right, and God blessed them. He didn't say he just blessed the man. He didn't say he just blessed the woman. He said God blessed them. And God said unto them, both of them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So God blessed both of them. And this is phenomenal, because it talks about how he blessed them with dominion. And if you look at Proverbs 31, because I've studied, Jewish history and different things like that. But Proverbs 31, that's a scripture we always go to. And I was telling somebody, because she said, okay, there's Proverbs 31, teaches how to be a virtuous woman. Where's the scriptures that teach about how to be, because I even talk about in my book, how God is looking for, it says, who can find a faithful man? Who can find a virtuous woman? So where's the scriptures to be a faithful man? Where's the scriptures to be a faithful man? Because honestly, what people don't understand, if that man is just married to you, and it isn't a divine connection, or he isn't submitted to God, the eyes of man are not satisfied. And it says, Job says, his wife became a covering for his eyes. And then Sarah, when God came to Abraham, or not God, but when Abraham was walking, or moving into the promised land, or God sent them on their journey, Abraham was with Sarah, and Sarah was so beautiful that she was attracting attention of kings. So Abram said, look, Sarah, say you're my sister and not my wife, which was only a half-truth. She was half his wife. So when he denied her the first time, she came back. Fine, everything was fine. But the second time, the king Abimelech said, let your husband be a covering for your eyes. So a husband is a covering for the woman's eyes, and a wife is a covering for the man's eyes. But so that wandering eye and looking at all these women and saying, I'm just a man, aren't I? That's just ignorance. I know for me, when I came to the Lord and I got determined, I would always wear a baseball cap. I love to wear hats, and I would pull it down low. And I would just go about and see no evil, hear no evil. Because the eyes to the soul, the gateway to the soul is through the eyes. So I wouldn't look at a woman. Since I wasn't looking at women, I couldn't even be, tempted by women. So I was walking in degrees of purity, because my relationship with the Lord, I didn't want to give that up for anything. And it was funny, because I even went to a church one time. In the church I was going to, I walked to the church, and when I was coming in, there was a girl at the front door who greeted me, and I greeted her, and I said, that's a beautiful dress. And I was about to go in, and she said, well, how come you don't never pay attention to the girls here? And I said, what do you mean pay attention to the girls here? She said, you don't give compliments. And I said, I just complimented you and said that was a beautiful dress. But she said, well, you just, it seems like you're not, so I realized what she wanted me to do is pay her more attention. And the thing is, my focus was on God. It wasn't so much that I wouldn't give compliments. I'm supposed to build my sisters up and my brothers up. But I couldn't get engaged with my eyes and other things with women. That wasn't what I was trying to partake of. Even though I would, me and my brothers, it's funny because one time, my brothers, we had a time where we did a little get together at night, and my brother was there, and it was funny. He was there with the woman, and I had a date. It was a pastor's daughter of this another ministry, and so after I got off the day after I dropped her off, and it was funny. I met her in this class where this teacher was like, "You always wearing a ring, and sometimes you might even see I still wear a ring." She was like, "But who are you married to?" I said, "I'm married to Jesus," and she said, "A woman will do things for you that Jesus can't." It's crazy, but I couldn't deny that wasn't true. And it's funny because even as I said that, there was this pastor's daughter in that class who I was talking to and getting to know her. And it was funny being led of the Spirit. She told me she stayed in this one building, and I would just go through the different corners and then stop right in front of her door. And then I asked her, "Are you curious about how I knew where you stayed at? Did you wonder that? You think I'm a stalker or something like that?" She's like, "No, I could tell by your spirit that you're not." And you walk in the Spirit, you can just be led to different things. And that's the goal. To be a son of God is to be led. But, long story short, my friend was at the thing, and I dropped this girl off. And then I came to the get together. And when he saw me, he said, "Thank God." Because he knew. He was sitting at this thing with this old women. He said, "I need my boy to come in," because he knows when we get into male-woman discussions, they're liable to attack. And it could be the same questions. How come you're not paying us any attention? What's going on? We've been here for how long? All those kind of different things. But this word, this book, this message is how to be blessed in that relationship. A marriage is honorable in all. It's a good thing to be desired. So we have that desire. God is love. We have a desire for love. God has prepared relationship and marriage for us. It's a good thing. So it says he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So this scripture is to bless you and to find that. So what I was talking about was how God blessed them. Didn't just bless the man, but blessed the man and the woman. Blessed them with dominion. And in Proverbs 31, it talks about the virtuous woman. And a woman, like I said, was one time saying, okay, the virtuous woman, we know Proverbs 31, this is how a man is to be, or how a woman is to be. What about the man? And I said, oh, well, Proverbs 31 is the virtuous woman. Proverbs 1 through 30 is the man. There's a greater responsibility. But honestly, this whole book, whether they say man or woman, God could, like I said, he said man and then blessed male and female. This whole word is for the male and the female. Because you have to understand things about the female. You have to understand things about the male. So I know, like, when I was researching, doing different things, Miles Monroe, phenomenal man of God who went on to glory recently, I believe this year, and I have his books. It was talking about the power and purpose of a woman and the power and purpose of a man. And I showed those to my family early. I got those books and it blew my mind. But, so I knew it's not just good to me to know my purpose and what I'm called to, but to understand a woman's purpose and what she's called to. Because the scripture says, dwell with your wife according to knowledge. And it's not talking about divine knowledge. It's talking about secular or regular knowledge. Like, what is she like? Does she like money? Does she like the color green? Does she like, you have to investigate and know things about whoever you're with. Because it says, and when Paul was saying, if as a single person you can only commit yourself to God, but he said, but if you're not single, you have to pay attention to that wife and that spouse. And so you have to pay attention and to please them. He says you would only please God, but now you have to please God and that spouse, which is a blessing. That's a good thing. All right. So, as I mentioned, they're both given dominion. And so this virtuous woman, she's highly sought after because you look at 23, Proverbs 31:23, it says, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. Lots of times you hear about the woman who bring us shame is like rottenness in his bones. And we know from the scriptures that Eve was taken from the side of Adam, from his bones, as a structure, as a support to Adam. Now, I did say in the battle, that man, he'll go first in the battle. But that's a proper understanding of how battle is supposed to be fought. And even with that, it says, when David went to war one time, he went to war. But what happened is when he went to war, he got back and found out the place where the women and children were, they were all taken captive. It was wiped out. From then he learned something, he learned a principle of war that later on was repeated. And what he learned was that there were supposed to be those who go out to battle and those who protect and keep what has already been acquired. And what happened was, after the battle, because the king will go out to battle and receive the spoils, it was shared evenly. So a woman, lots of times, she might, in this society, some people might say, well, she's just a housewife, or she's just a keeper of the home. She's not worthy of any respect. She doesn't do anything. She's just up underneath that man. But actually, when it talks about having a good reward and labor for their work, lots of men, they can't go forth in their venture and their calling or their opportunity because they're tied to that job and they don't have a wife to help them build, or a woman that understands that, or them even understanding that and how that works. I mean, if God's called you to that job, then go ahead and go to that job. And there's some careers, it's a blessing. Like you can be a professor and then you can do your thing on the side. But sometimes people get tied up in those things and they can't really do what was in their heart to do because they don't have the support. And some people don't understand how they're supposed to work together as a team to have the support. But it talks here how the husband is known in the gates. And for me, studying Jewish history, the virtuous woman, a man would marry a woman because he knew by the type of woman that he married, it would qualify him for a certain degree of status in society. So, like I said before, a certain kind of woman might make you bring shame, and a certain kind of woman will bring you honor. And then, and even if you look in society today, you would think, okay, in American society, a lot of people don't follow the Christian doctrine. And so when they run for office, since they're not following that doctrine, they might do whatever. But you see, as when people run for office, one of the major things that have stopped many people from taking office, becoming known as sitting as an elder or becoming an authority in the land, is their infidelities. Just the scripture right here. The way they treated their wife. There was people who were ahead of the poll. I'm not trying to throw out names, but we know these. These they happen publicly. So they would say infidelities. Next thing you know, their whole campaign can't go forward no more. So we see that. And the thing that I was saying with that is, if you marry a woman that God has appointed, that woman actually satisfies you. And she satisfies you, she can be a covering for your eyes. In fact, when we take the vows, we say, forsaking all others. And the problem is, many people take those vows but don't take them seriously, so they never forsake all others. So why would you take a vow if you're not going to take it seriously? That's what I'm talking about. People don't understand marriage, and they're getting married. And a lot of people, they want to get married. They want to get married, but they're not qualified for marriage. They're not qualified. How do you qualify for marriage? All right, look. We'll go back. Genesis 1:28. We're going to just jump down. 1:28. It said, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it. Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it. All right. What is it talking about right there? The first thing to do is be fruitful. Be fruitful. After that, multiply. So your first thing that you should be doing is being fruitful. Whatever God has given you, be fruitful. Then multiply. And a lot of people, they want a spouse, but doesn't realize the spouse came as a help. And you want a spouse, but what are you doing for God? What do you need help with?